Hi, Jeff Munn, Creating Extraordinary Futures, and in this week's video I want to talk about something that I haven't talked about a lot, at least in a lot of detail, and I will call it the worst day of my life that turned out to be the best day of my life. And the day that I'm talking about is August 2nd, 2016, and it's the day that I got laid off from my last job at Fidelity Investments. Now, there were some things that were even in motion at that point that would lead to my deciding to go out on my own and create a coaching business. But it was not at all apparent on August 2nd, 2016, that was what I was going to do. I was let go as part of a restructuring. Fidelity would routinely just, take a look at certain levels of the organization and just, let people go. I had gotten an award for being one of the top innovative thinkers in the part of the organization that I was with, the workplace investing business. So if you think of Fidelity as like three main businesses, workplace investing was one of those businesses. So it wasn't about performance. It was just time. And it hurt. And I was frustrated. I didn't think it was fair. It was a little bit of compensation, maybe, I guess, that my boss was also let go, but I definitely felt for him. And he had been there a lot longer, so he had a kind of a workout. He was going to continue to work there for another 6 months or so before he left. But there was a lot of emotional churning. There was, oh my God, what am I going to do next? There was panic. There was this clinging to this idea of finding another job within Fidelity, because I had been laid off one other time in my career in, I want to say 2003 at Hewitt Associates, but I found another role within Hewitt and I actually stayed 7 more years. So, the first impulse was, I'll just find another role. There were none to be found. My second impulse was to start a consulting business. I had a particular area of expertise within healthcare, consumer-driven healthcare, that kind of thing. If those things mean anything to you. But I would reach out to people about consulting and really not get anywhere. I had a few people offer to hire me into an employee role, but I had this knowing, this bodily knowing, I don't know how else to put it, but I had this knowing that it was time to go out on my own, and it was scary, but I knew, and I said no. And actually, one of my former colleagues at Fidelity reached out to me like 6 months later and said, hey, we're looking for someone. Would you be interested in coming back? And I was struggling with the coaching thing at that point, but I said no. At that point, the gate had been opened to pursuing a coaching career. And, I ended up going to a couple Rich Litvin intensives. I worked with Rich in a small group. He was incredibly helpful as I was beginning to think about how am I going to help people and who am I going to help and what does that look like, and developing the change in identity that is necessary to be a coach. So you have to do, especially if you've been in the corporate world, if you've been in a corporate career for a long time, you have a network. And so you need to start with that network. You need to reach out to that network, but you need to re-educate your network. I'm doing this now. This is how I do it. This is who I work with. And that takes some time. So there is this preparatory phase where you and your network are learning new things about yourself. And then I just had lots of conversations, and I started experimenting, and I started documenting what works. And over time, I found this resonance with founders. And at one point, relatively recently, I looked at my client base, and it was almost all founders. And so there was this change of focus of like, oh, I work with founders, and I know the challenges that founders are going through, particularly as they scale and sell their businesses. And so if you look at my client base right now, that's where the focus is. That's where the focus is in my one-on-one business. But then other coaches started to find out about what I had done through a couple communities that I'm part of. They started asking me questions, and I started thinking about, oh, I never wanted to be that coach who built a business coaching other coaches and didn't have any other clients other than coaches. And I see a lot of that in the coaching world, coaches who really don't have real coaching practices other than coaches. And I just kind of rebelled against that idea, and I put it aside, and I told myself I'm not gonna work with coaches until I get to this point where I've built a solid business. And then I realized, oh, I've actually built that business, and coaches are coming to me, and I'm really enjoying sharing what I have learned, sharing the mistakes that I have made along the way, hopefully shortening their journey. I mean, it took 2 or 3 years to really get to a point where I felt like this is a solid business, and I'm gonna make this work. And now in 2023, 7 years later, I have substantially exceeded my prior corporate income. I'm working with founders and helping them scale, from 8 figures to 9, from 9 to 10. I'm loving what I do, and I have a lot to share about how I did that. And so if that's something that resonates with you, if you have recently left the corporate world, or you're thinking about leaving the corporate world, and you're wondering if you can build a sustainable business that would exceed your prior income, I can tell you, you absolutely can do it. I've done it. I can give you a lot of help along the way on how to do that, especially at the point of enrollment. I think there's this magic that happens in the enrollment conversation where you and your potential client agree on this created future that your client did not see before talking to you. And that's an amazing co-creation, and it's where a lot of the the creating and sustaining of a 6-figure and up coaching business comes from. If you click on the link that you're going to see below this video, I'm going to send you another video about the same length, but it's going to be the 3 mistakes that I see coaches consistently make as they're trying to build sustainable 6-figure coaching practices. They're the same mistakes that I made. And if that resonates with you and you want to go a little bit deeper, you will have the opportunity to schedule a breakthrough session with me. And from there, we'll see if maybe you align with a program that I'm offering or a community that I'm creating. We'll at least get in the conversation with each other and see where it goes. I'm an open book. I'm willing to share anything along my journey, what worked, what didn't work. And I'm just happy to be in that conversation with you. So click on the link, and hopefully we'll have a conversation soon, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.